Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an emergency live podcast episode of Full Steam Ahead. I'm your host, Zoe, co-host Cantu. Didn't join us today, but this is going to be a short little episode. Just obviously the biggest news of tonight. Alex Bregman has finally signed with a team, and he will be going to Beantown over there in Boston with the Red Sox. The Bregman fatigue is finally over, I would say, for all Astro fans, baseball fans, especially because this is the last biggest free agent that's really on the market. And he has officially finally agreed to a 3-year, $120 million contract with the Red Sox. Of course, this was broken down by Chandler Rome of The Athletic. He first reported it. He also had mentioned that there will be opt-outs after each season. He had mentioned that. I've seen that Bob Nightingale and John Heyman had mentioned that there is 2 opt-outs. So Ari Alexander and himself and Rome had mentioned 3 opt-outs for each season. But man, 3 years, 120 million. That is 40 AAV a year, 40 million a year that he's going to be getting. But all of that money is deferred, according to Ari Alexander. Obviously, like I said in the beginning of the show, this is going to be me tonight. It's going to be a solo show. It's going to be a quick one as well. Probably spend max 25 to 30 minutes because, of course, Alex Bregman. We'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Jose Altuve, and there could be a strong possibility of him playing his full position at second base. We'll talk a little bit more on that. So join in the chat if you want to. Let's get engaging in this audience tonight. As it's going to be a solo show with me. Eric Hammonds already had mentioned. Thank you, Alex Bregman, Breggy Fan for Life. Yeah, let me know your thoughts about this signing of him going to the Red Sox. I know there's a lot of mixed emotions from Astro fans, because it's taken him this so long. Of course, Jose Altuve already mentioned that he will switch positions and do anything for Alex Bregman to re-sign with the Astros. So let me know in the comments what you think of this move, for the Astros, for the Red Sox. Are you still going to be a Bregman fan regardless of where he had signed? Let me know in the comments. We'll put these comments up and get the chat going. But man, Alex Bregman, he turned down 6-year deal over 170 million to sign with the Red Sox, according to Bob Nightingale in the USA Today. And of course, like I had mentioned, Ari Alexander with the deferred money. He also had mentioned as well, Bregman turned down a 171 million offer because he wanted to be in Boston. Boston, and I think I mentioned this last night, the last episode we had, and I don't know if Angel can, contribute to that, but I thought Boston was the best fit for him. That team's going to be really strong this upcoming season. A very competitive team in that AL East in a competitive division. Obviously, the Yankees going to the World Series last year. You can't count out the Baltimore Orioles. Toronto Blue Jays are going to still hang in there. But Boston, man, I think they have a really good shot to be going up in that division, taking it from the Yankees or possibly just entering the postseason. And if you think about it, if you look at their kind of like where their lineup is set, you got Jaron Duran in as their leadoff hitter. Then you could go wherever you want. You go Alex Bregman. You could go Rafael Devers. You still got Trevor Story over there too. Tristan Casas. They got a lot of young, good players. Ceddanne Rafael is another one. Wilyer Abreu. Man, that team is really solid. Very young, but now you bring in a guy that has some pretty damn good leadership and clubhouse presence. And the manager and Alex Cora already knows him. That team could be really scary going into this season. Of course, their pitching depth. They added Walker Buehler. They traded for Garrett Crochet. So that Boston team is going to be really stacked. And don't forget, the Red Sox do go to Daikin Park on August 11th through the 13th. So if you do want to get your tickets, you might as well get them now. But a lot of Houston fans, mixed emotions, I would say. In my opinion, looking at a writer's standpoint, this is a guy that's done a lot for this city. He signed a 5-year, $100 million extension during his times through the arbitration when Jeff Luhnow gave him that contract. That was a pretty friendly deal. And sure enough, he got another World Series out of it. His accolades with Houston in 9 years, 2-time All-Star, 2018 All-Star Game MVP. He is the first Astro to ever win that award. 2-time World Series champion, obviously, in 2017 and 2022. 2019 All-MLB second team, runner-up MVP in 2019, which I honestly thought he should have won that award, but Mike Trout ended up still winning, even though he was injured in that last month and a half of that season. Silver Slugger Award in 2019 as well. And obviously, in his Astros tenure, he won his first Gold Glove Award in the hot corner. We'll have to see what this is going to look like. Carl Dunn enter as a LSU baseball fan and Houston fan. I will always be a fan of Breg's. Wish he would have stayed with Houston, but go get your money. And Carl is exactly right. Like I said, 5-year, $100 million deal. I thought that was pretty friendly. And for him, what he's done for this city of Houston, not just the community, but, obviously with baseball, 9 years, them accolades that I had mentioned. He was an important piece to this golden era of Astros baseball. Honestly, he was one of the key pieces. Yes, you had your Correas, you had the Springers, of course, you had the Altuves, the Alvarezes, and the Tuckers. But Bregman being this is a guy that loved baseball 24/7. Everybody's heard his story about in LSU. He went to go get a key card to go hit at the box over there at LSU's field. So he is very baseball competitive. He recently did have his Bregman Cares tournament at Sugarland and Constellation Field. So I feel like he's still going to be very in the community with Houston no matter what. New Mexico native to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Houston. He's been a Southern boy all his life. Now he's going to go to the Northeast part of the region. And Astroworld Craig makes a great point. Breggy's going to be good in Boston. Let me tell you about these stats at Fenway Park. Alex Bregman's career games. He's only played 21 games at Fenway Park. This includes the postseason as well. He has a .375 batting average, a .490 on-base percentage, a .750 slugging percentage. Just listen to them slash lines. It sounds insane. 9 doubles, 7 home runs, 17 strikeouts, 16 walks, a .236 WRC plus, and a 1.240 OPS. That is the highest he's had in any stadium played in the last at least 7 games. So that's why I'm saying this is a perfect fit for not just Boston, but for Alex Bregman. Of course, he didn't want a short-term deal. He mentioned that, but looking at that deal now, 3 years, $120 million. He went to a place that he's going to love to hit at and where he's going to call home for the next 3 years. Of course, he does have them opt-outs, but when you're making $40 million a year, man, I don't know if you would want to opt out making all that type of money. I could be wrong. That's his thing, not me. But Carl wanted to continue here. Go Tigers, go Stros, and go Breggy. So right now, a lot of Astro fans in this chat, at least, is excited for Bregman's next chapter going to Boston and playing over there at Fenway Park. If you haven't gone to Fenway Park too, and you're still a Bregman fan like Eric, you're like Carl, you might want to take a trip down there because that is one of the most historical ballparks in Major League Baseball. It's one of the most prettiest fields, I would say, too, even though thousands of chip paint and covered of paint and all that stuff. Still a beautiful field to go visit. If, like I said, if you're a Bregman fan, if you're an Astros fan, or you're just a fan in baseball in general, a great ballpark to visit. But what does this mean for the Astros? Are the Astros still going to be in the quote-unquote golden era of Astros baseball? You already see Alex Bregman left. The trades to the Chicago Cubs with Ryan Presley and Kyle Tucker. Are the Astros still a competitive team to really say, like I mentioned, this golden era of Astros baseball? That's going to be the answer for y'all to at least say they're still going to be competitive, I say. Dana Brown did mention today that if they're going to go and see if they're going to grab anybody else, it's going to be pitching. They're looking like it's going to be done with left-handed hitting. So Ben Gamble, Luis Guillorme, being them left-handed hitters, are going to be the guys to be on that roster for the Astros. Of course, Guillorme's contract is a minor league contract, but you never know. He could still stay on the roster. Ben Gamble. And then obviously the the left field situation. Now you're going to have Jose Altuve play a little bit of there. You're going to see Yordan Alvarez play less than 33 games, like Angel had mentioned in the last episode. Zach DeZenzo's probably going to get some time over there. Ben Gamble as well. Chas McCormick is a possibility if they want to switch Gamble and him over there. So there's going to be internal candidates. There's going to be the guys that they just signed, Jose Altuve, on the other hand, he's still going to play left field regardless. I don't know how many games. That's going to be up to the Astros to decide, to Joe Espada, to Dana Brown. But back to the question, are they going to be a competitive team? Is this going to be a team that could still go to the World Series? On paper, if you look at it right now, I just don't see it as a World Series team, a team that potentially could win the division, but I just don't think this team on roster, I mean, with the pitching depth that they have, the bullpen, the players they got on the field, I think at best I would say is a division team. Possibly if they win the division, obviously they don't play. They'll play in the wild card depending on seeding. If they don't win the division, then I could see as a wild card team. But I know Alex Bregman not being in that clubhouse does hurt some players. I did write an article on it in the last game, wherever the Tigers knocked out the Astros in that American League wild card game. This is a quote from the media from that last game. Just quote this from Alex Bregman as well. What I told the guys after the game was I was just super proud of the fight in the room all year long. A lot of guys grew, got better, continued to compete. Some guys this season didn't start the way they wanted to, kept battling, and it was an honor to play with this group. Every year is different. Every team is different. But this team, this is one of the funnest seasons I've had. Having to dig ourselves out of a hole, continue to compete all year long. Really proud of the growth from the younger guys. Didn't end the way we wanted, but that's baseball, and it's what keeps you coming back for more. I did have the video, but I just couldn't download it in time for the episode that we're going to do right now. But you did hear it in that quote. The one big thing that jumped out was 2024 being one of the funnest seasons he's ever had. In 9 years with the Astros, you kind of scratch your head like you won a World Series in 2017. You won a World Series in 2022. You've gone to the World Series, 17, 21, 22, and 19. You went to the World Series 4 times in 4 seasons, and 2024 was the funnest season. You could agree with that because he's a competitive guy. The Astros had a terrible start, but they climbed out of that hole, like he had mentioned, won the division, tried to make a run, obviously ended coming up to an end. And for him to say that, that just shows the character that he's a fighter, that he's not going to give up. And shit, he didn't. He won the Gold Glove, played, I want to say, if I don't have it right in front of me, but probably over 140 games that season. He's been, in the past 3 seasons, he's gone over 100 games in every season to be played. So for him to say that, it shows a lot of character, the hard worker that he is, the competitive guy that he is. This is a huge loss for the Astros as a clubhouse, as a leadership standing point. However, we did mention in the last episode, Christian Walker, big things over there in Arizona being said that he was a big leader in that infield, so I can see him stepping up this season. Joe Espada did mention on the Crush City podcast network on Foul Territory that he could see Jeremy Pena possibly being a guy to carry on that leadership role. And man, this is a quote from Jeremy Pena as well, because of course, playing with Bregman for them past, he made his debut in 22, so them 3 seasons on the left side. Pena said he's been great to me since the first day. I feel like Breggy kind of took me under his wing. Whenever I need advice, Breggy's probably one of the first people I can reach out to. I feel like he'll pick up every single time. Not just a great teammate. I consider him a friend as well. So, yeah, like I said, this really hurts some of the guys. Another guy like Hunter Brown, there's a quote from him. Alex Bregman is a special, special human and special player. I hope I get to see him back next year. That's all I got to say. These are some of the quotes, like I had mentioned before, from that AL wild card series against the Tigers when the Tigers beat them in Game 2 at Minute Maid Park. But going back to the chat real quick, Carl, I'm starting to worry a little bit with this roster. I knew Breggs wasn't coming back, and I mentioned that too the last episode. Like, I just did not see him coming back. The Astros continuously said that they were having internal conversations with him. It looked like there was a big chance whenever The Astros did pick up the phone and told him that the offer still stand if he wanted to come for 6 years, 156 million, but it just didn't look like it got anywhere. Ari did mention that the Astros kind of brought up the offer, but Bregman kind of like stands still and just didn't budge with that deal. I think it's just for him, he was ready to move on. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Like Carlos Correa, he did want to stay in Houston, but Astros and in this Jim Crane era, they haven't paid a guy over 150 something million. Alex Bregman could have been that first one, but you're just not going to see that with Kyle Tucker. That's why the Astros traded him, got some assets for him. And if you look back on it now, it's like, well, shit, they did what they needed to do. If they weren't going to do that, then Alex Bregman's not on the board. Nolan Arenado didn't want to waive his no trade clause to go to Houston. Who was going to play third base? Bryce Matthews was more of a middle infielder. You had Shea Wickham that played a little bit of third in the last part of the season as well. I don't know if they were going to shift Jerry Pena, which I highly doubt it. And Cam Smith wasn't in the picture until that trade with Isaac Paredes. Now you have him for 3 more years. You have Cam Smith, the number 1 prospect in the Astros farm system, that his natural position is third base, but I don't think the Astros are afraid to go give him a chance in the outfield to give him some looks because, I mean, Dana Brown has been really big on this guy. Very athletic build, like I mentioned, kind of a 5-tool type of player that you would want on your team. So you never know what can happen in these upcoming years. I do say that the Astros are still going to be competitive, like I had mentioned. They have a really good shot to continue to win this division. I think the division itself is going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, even though the Mariners didn't make any moves. That rotation is still going to be a key point of why they're going to stay on top and first and second, even though they didn't really upgrade anything in the offense category. Texas Rangers, on the other hand, you lose Max Scherzer, but Scherzer was already kind of regressing just like Justin Verlander. You got Jacob deGrom that's going to be coming back. You still got that rotation. You got a lot of young players that are going to be healthy again in that roster. So Rangers are still going to be there. Don't sleep on the Athletics. Very young, fun squad to be watching if you are a baseball fan. And the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That news with Anthony Rendon, really can't say nothing about that. That's how it is, what it is. But they did win and go and sign some veterans, Travis d'Arnaud, Jorge Soler. Luis Rengifo was playing like an all-star caliber player in the midseason to the end until he got hurt. So you still got the best player too in Mike Trout. That division is going to be very, very interesting heading into 2025 because, of course, it's always been either Houston, Seattle, Houston, Texas. You get it? No pun intended, Houston, Texas. But anyway, it's going to be a competitive division. Alex Bregman, at the end of the day, in my opinion, he deserved to get what he wanted. 9 years in Houston, like I had mentioned, his accolades. If we even look at his stats in an Astros uniform, career-wise, a 39.6 WAR. He has 1,132 hits, 265 doubles, 18 home runs, 191 home runs. So he's 9 shy of getting 200. 663 RBIs, a career batting average of 272, an on-base percentage of 366, a slugging percentage of 483, and an OPS of 848 with an OPS plus of 132. Now, reminder, he's not going to be the Alex Bregman that's 2019. The 2019 days are long gone behind him. 41 home runs, 112 RBIs, 119 walks, 164 hits. That is his career high, and WAR is 8.9. A lot of career high numbers in that season. I just don't think he's ever going to go back to that. Of course, you saw his strikeout to walk ratio kind of regress last season. He's striking out a little bit more than walking. As far as home runs go, he's gone in the 20s from 2022 to 2024, 23, 25, and 26. The RBIs as well, 93, 98 to 75. This is from 2022 to 2024. So you're not going to see 2019. You're not going to see 2018. this was the right move for the Astros to go ahead and not up their offer. Dana Brown did the right thing, like I had mentioned a little earlier, going ahead, making sure you have your assets before you go back into this, the Alex Bregman sweepstakes. And you got a young guy like Isaac Perez that they're going to hold for 3 years under team control. He pulls the ball. It's going to look really good. If you look at a sprays chart, everything's on the left side. If he pulls the ball into the Crawford boxes, you're going to see, in my prediction, I think he could be a 30-plus home run type of player. Christian Walker as well. You went ahead and signed a good first baseman, a defensive first baseman. Not to mention his numbers are still good offensively, just like Paredes. Going to do the same thing, pull the ball, doubles, home runs. Them numbers are going to be better than they were at Chase Field. And, of course, at other ballparks, too. If you really think about these guys, Paredes was a all-star with the Rays before he went to Chicago. And Chicago, I mean, he wasn't himself. And we had talked about this a little bit just last night with if Alex Bregman goes to the Cubs, there you can see some numbers probably drop, because that's what happened to Isaac Paredes when he went to Tampa Bay, obviously being an indoor stadium, to Chicago, which I had kind of talked about was being the Windy City. Of course, I don't think it could be a factor, but you never know. I have it right here in front of me. So Tampa Bay, he had 16 home runs, 55 RBIs. That was before the All-Star break, and of course, that was before the trade deadline. And then Chicago, I mean, he just didn't look like himself again. 3 home runs, 25 RBIs. He had a 0.4 WAR, 223 batting average, 633 OPS. So maybe Chicago just wasn't a great fit for him. Maybe the wind was a factor. Like I said, I'm not the weather guy. I'm not 100% sure why his numbers weren't great. But that's why I said I think being at an indoor ballpark like Minute Maid that, obviously doesn't even open its roof, which you never know. Maybe this season they do. But him playing back in an indoor facility, him going to have them Crawford boxes at 315, a guy that pulls the ball, I can see something like that happening with 30-plus home runs and maybe some RBIs depending where he is listed on this lineup. Sarcastic prodigy, in my opinion, Paredes will have a better season than Bregman. The only thing the Astros didn't do was get Santander. Santander's contract was pretty crazy too, but the money was deferred as well. But yeah, I think, and I'm not going to repeat myself on this, Alex Verdugo still a free agent, and my opinion, like I said, this is me. I think I would have gave him a shot. Of course, his numbers were really bad in New York with the Yankees, but two, you got to be a guy that loves to play in New York, that loves that type of environment. Maybe it wasn't just for him, but it's crazy because he played at Boston. It's almost the same, Northeast kind of people. But I would have took a gamble on him, give him a year deal, kind of see a make or break for him. But they went ahead and got Ben Gamel. Gamel already knows the Astros. Had a really good run in Houston before he got hurt. And they signed Luis Guillorme, getting some infield depth. And he's a left-handed hitter. But the outfield, I think they're going to rely on Jose. Like I said, Jose Altuve is going to play some left. Yordan Alvarez is going to play some left. This was Angel's guy that he wants to see in spring training get himself going like he was in the Puerto Rican Winter League. It's going to be Zach DeZenzo. If Zach DeZenzo could give you 20 home runs with, let's say, 60 RBIs, like the way he was slashing over there in Puerto Rico, and he does that in an Astros uniform in 2025, then you're pretty safe, I would say. Yes, the lineup is right-handed heavy as hell. Your only left-handed hitter is Yordan Alvarez, and if you're going to give Christian Walker a day off or you're going to get him in the DH, you could possibly see John Singleton being in the mix. Victor Caratini going to be substituting, but he is a switch hitter. Of course, right-handed pitchers, he'll hit on the left side as well. We just have to wait and see when the season comes around. But yeah, Alex Bregman, Boston Red Sox, 3 years, $120 million, deferred $40 million a year with opt-outs in each season. Would it be smart for him if he has one of these seasons like how he did with Houston, that had like 20 something, 26 home runs and 70 something RBIs. If I was him, I wouldn't opt out of that 40-year contract for the rest of that contract. 40 million, you got what you wanted, a big bag, you wanted that 200 million kind of deal. Well, shit, you're making 40 million each year. I'd stay in Boston. You have great numbers in Boston as well. I wouldn't want to leave over there, especially with that young squad they got. He already knows the manager in Alex Cora. And of course, Boston right now is still trying to get back to the postseason since 2021. Bringing a guy like Bregman, I think that really helps their chances of getting to the postseason. But this is going to be it for the episode. Like I mentioned, it's just going to be a short and sweet one. If you haven't followed us already, FSA Full Steam Ahead on Instagram. We got Full Steam Ahead on Twitter, on TikTok. Hit that subscribe button as well. We will be live at that HBCU Softball Classic, Travis Scott. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll get some interviews there going on. And if you haven't heard our last podcast episode, it's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It is on Apple Podcasts as well. So make sure you go on there, download it. Leave us a rate, leave us a review. Let us know how we do. But until then, like we said, this is a Mercy Live podcast. We will talk to y'all before or maybe after. We'll probably talk to y'all after the Astros have their first full day of their squad workouts. Till then, y'all stay safe and talk to y'all soon.